Hey folks, this clip is brought to you by the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, ZenSports. Enter code A to Z TN, ATOZ TN to earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. That is ZenSports. All right, we're back. Midweek segment here on the Big Orange Podcast, the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. I'm Charlie Burris. That is Zach Reagan. And we thought we should hop on here because a whole bunch of news went down today as it goes for recruiting, the entire Jordan Seaton situation, I guess if that's what you want to call it, but then also the transfer portal had some things unfold there. No commits just yet, at least as of the recording of this is 5:00 on Thursday. And so, obviously by the time this actually goes up, Lord knows what could happen. But we did want to talk about because there was a lot of panic, a lot of freaking out, a lot of reactions after Jordan Seaton today, 5-star offensive lineman from IMG Academy in Florida, committed to Colorado. And he committed to Colorado after it was all but assumed he was going to commit to Tennessee by everybody I saw. There were no crystal balls that I saw, but a lot of people just kind of saying like, "Oh yeah, it seems it's really moving strongly in Tennessee's direction and this and that." And just a lot of optimism for Tennessee. And then he chooses a team that was not even in his final four, and he goes with Dion in Colorado. You covered this all day today, Zach. What were some of your quick thoughts on it?
Yeah, I wasn't totally shocked that he didn't pick Tennessee, even though the vibe was trending that direction. His recruitment's kind of been this roller coaster, up and down. This team leads, that team leads. They made a good impression. The fact that he went to Colorado was the shocking part. Definitely did not see that coming. Like you said, it wasn't in his top four. Like I said, wasn't shocked that he didn't pick Tennessee because how many of these guys that they kind of play these, I don't want to say play these games, but these real roller coaster recruitments, they don't, like Walter Nolan was that way, who's obviously in the portal again and is probably going to go through that same type of journey again. It doesn't seem like Tennessee lands those guys, and that's not like a slight against Tennessee. I think it's just because the type of guys they recruit, the type of guys they build relationships with just aren't those types of guys, really. So that part wasn't shocking. Still felt like there was a pretty good chance he'd end up at Tennessee. He didn't. Goes to Colorado, and really that was only the beginning of the panic today. It kind of set off a chain of events that we're still waiting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think there's a number of possibilities here where, I think at a base level, Seaton just pulled a bait and switch, whether he was really favored towards Tennessee or not, because Colorado was not even in his final four. I am absolutely certain he did that on purpose. These things almost always are on purpose. These kids are very tuned into social media. They know a lot of the reaction that they're going to get. I don't think that they consider their audience a lot of the time. But I think they do know that they will get a big reaction. And there's a difference between getting a big reaction and actually doing something where you're going to get a good reaction. A big reaction and a good reaction are two very different things. But regardless, this was all very purposeful. He goes on what's the show?
I think it was Undisputed. And look, that Undisputed. Right there, that should have been our first clue when he was going out to LA to make this commitment. Pretty obvious what happens here, right? Like NIL, you if you're a 17-year-old kid about to play college football, you want your face in front of as many people as possible, right? That's why kids are doing these interviews on podcasts all the time and these live shows. Like you're marketing yourself. Tennessee wasn't getting him Undisputed. Alabama, they're not getting him on Undisputed even. But who is going to get him on Undisputed?
Yeah, Dion, who I think, is there not a connection there with him and Shannon Sharp?
Yeah, right. So that had to be a little string that was pulled behind the scenes, right? Like that should have been kind of the first clue that something was amiss, and I think it was to some people. Once that came out that he was going to commit in Los Angeles on Thursday, there were some red flags, some sirens that went up from pretty much everybody involved in the recruitment. Like, what is going on here? And the fact that no one seemed to know what was going on should have been a hint that, hey, maybe something else behind the scenes is happening with a school that we're not thinking about. In retrospect, it's kind of easy to piece that all together.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because when I look at recruiting as a whole, I actually like what this kid did.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I hate that it came at the expense of Tennessee. That sucks. Tennessee kind of got its, got. I said it after Missouri. They got pantsed. Like they got embarrassed essentially. And getting pantsed by Missouri and then getting pantsed by a huge 5-star recruit. We got to stop doing this. We got to stop getting embarrassed. Can we do this, please? That's got to stop. But yeah, I mean, I could just I was never fully in. I didn't really tweet about the situation. I didn't really go in all in on it because just with kids like this, where his entire recruitment, it felt like he's really trying to grab that spotlight. And again, I don't necessarily fault him for that. And outside of the fact that it came at Tennessee's expense, I actually like that he hid all of this information from the recruiting guys. I love that. Those recruiting
I think
guys,
it's hilarious. They had no clue.
No clue. And that's so funny because they really have this habit of like taking the spotlight off the kids so that they can get the click, so that they can go like, breaking, Jordan Seaton is going to and they love to break in there and ruin the kids' commitment day. And he hid all of that so incredibly well. And this was all orchestrated now that that we've seen it. Like I said, I think there's a number of possibilities here. It could just be that he just wanted to keep it all secret and he just pulled a bait and switch on Tennessee, and just Tennessee ended up being the school that, that it just fell with. It could have been more to Ohio State. It could have ended up being Oregon, but just Tennessee was the one that ended up in this situation. Or you saw these theories, and I think this doesn't really make sense, but I saw this was actually an Ohio State writer where he said this is actually a ploy for him to get more money from other schools, potentially Tennessee, where he's going to choose this outlier, Colorado. And I'm sure Deion, Colorado has promised, or he's even signed to a load of money. Who knows? And then he's really just doing this so that other schools will be like, oh, we got to offer him even more now, because he's worth it and we could still flip him. Because I saw even right after, like, he's still potentially planning a visit to Oregon going forward. Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think that it is completely set in stone that this kid's going to Colorado. I'd put it that way. But there was a lot of theories there and all of these different things. Or it could be this. And I think this is a very real possibility. But this would be real long-term thinking on this kid's part, but also smart if he were to do this. But it could be him going to Colorado. He knows Deion's not going to be there long term. I mean, this is 1-2 more years tops with Deion, especially if he keeps losing. You got to know he's hopping out of there. He's not doing that for a long time. And so he goes, okay, I'll go to Colorado, take this fat check from Colorado, whatever it ends up being, and then I'll transfer and get another fat check from somebody else, and I still end up where I want to go. And I get to go play for Deion Sanders for a year. And so I think that could absolutely be the case, or at least even if it's not the exact plan, it could definitely be something that's just in the back of his head where he's like, best case scenario, I go to Colorado and we're good, which is not going to happen in my personal opinion, but it could, and then, it could just be, hey, that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, I get this fat check and I go hop somewhere else and I end up where I wanted to be anyway. And so it is what it is. This is today's recruiting. That's really the bottom line. This is how recruiting goes today.
Yeah, welcome. I agree totally. He's not. I mean, this kid's not gonna. His last collegiate snap will not be played at Colorado. Like, there's less than 1% chance that somehow happens. Because, like you said, if they keep losing, Deion's not. He's not gonna keep losing. He's not gonna fight a losing battle. If he does somehow miraculously turn it around and make the playoff like he promises they're going to do next season, and does something because he's got all these kids out of the portal, he's going to jump ship to the next best, situation. Like, that's Colorado's not where he wants to be. He wants to be LA. He wants to be in a big city. He's Deion. Like, he needs the attention. He craves the attention, and he's getting it right now. But once it kind of becomes the novelty act, once it's over, that seems like it'll probably fall apart. We'll see how it transpires. I definitely don't think Jordan Seaton's locked in long term there for Colorado. I think the more concerning aspect of all of this is the Instagram story from Boo Carter, who kind of alluded to the little handshake and whatever it was. I can't remember now what exactly he put in the caption towards Jordan Seaton. So like, you remember our deal or something, whatever it was to that effect, like almost alluding to their package deal, which I think Seaton kind of sent a message to Boo Carter or back and forth that before his commitment. And some Tennessee fans are like, hey, maybe that's a sign he's going to join Boo Carter as a Vols commit. And now it's like, oh, does that mean Boo Carter's leaving to go to Colorado? Because he did visit out there a couple of times. So Deion was hard after him. That's a guy that he wants. He is, I don't know if he's a Travis Hunter type talent, but he's a really talented kid that can play on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Deion can sell that to him that he has played a kid like that out there at Colorado. It's something he wants to do. He's told, in interviews, said in interviews that that's something he'd like to do. So there's a lot of reasons that Boo Carter might want to go to Colorado. So I definitely think that's something worth watching. I don't know. It's something that Tennessee's got to come up with some more NIL money. I mean, it's definitely a kid you want on your roster, but how far do you go to keep some of these kids? Like, what kind of problems does it cause? I know Ohio State, it's kind of like Tennessee, where they're not going to go all out for a Jordan Seaton. And I don't think Tennessee's going to go all out for a Jordan Seaton and get in this bidding war and then ruin whatever culture they've built. Some schools will do that. Florida State kind of will do that. Texas A&M is doing that. I think Ole Miss is willing to do that when they have the funds, but some of these programs don't want to do that. And there's a fine line there, and it's tough. It's a tough time to be a college coach, because when do you make that decision? You got to have the best players in the country to win. But you got to have a team that likes each other. And, regardless of what Deion says, culture does matter. Teams win championships. They got to be on the same page. And it's something that Tennessee has built over the last couple of years. You don't want to sacrifice that. And I do respect that about Josh Heupel, that he does seem to, draw a line in the sand maybe, but I don't know, you might need to move that line, something. I don't know. You got to keep some of these kids.
It's football season, and it's time to switch to ZenSports, the fastest growing sports book in Tennessee, changing the bonus game with their cash rewards program. When you sign up for ZenSports with code A2ZTN, ATOZTN, earn a welcome bonus that gives you 5% cash back on your total betting volume for your first 15 days of betting. And if you have friends who bet on sports, share your ZenSports referral bonus code with them, and you will earn 3% of their betting volume for their first 6 months of betting on ZenSports, with no cap on how much you can earn. So what are you waiting for? Stop wasting time and money on other sportsbooks when you could be earning real cash rewards with ZenSports. Download today on the App Store at zensports.com. And your wallet will thank you later. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee to bet. That is ZenSports. Go download it now. Yeah, it's definitely two different philosophies. One where you're willing to just give it all and get these flashy kids, and you run a risk there. There's obviously a decent chance they're going to be awesome. There's also a decent chance they're going to come in, be a complete diva, ruin your locker room, be a problem in that way. And again, it's just some guys do it and can handle it, and they can get those 5 stars, bring them in and wrangle them and make them great players, and some guys just avoid it altogether. And with Heupel, yeah, it does seem like he's a little more on that avoid it altogether. Although, I mean, Nico was a big social media kind of sensation recruit and everything, and they have kind of staked it all on him, so they haven't avoided that completely. Although it does seem like Nico has an incredible attitude, and he's pretty humble overall.
Yeah, I don't think they're avoiding NIL by any means, but I don't think
No.
they're not afraid. They're not. It's not like a kid can't leverage, right? We've seen Tyler Barron do it a couple of times. You saw Jalen Wright kind of do it last season. Maybe Dylan Sampson did it this year. We don't know. Like, that's happened, but and that's to be expected. I get it. I'm fine with that. But there is, like, you can't just, you have to have a line somewhere at some point, right? Because otherwise you keep getting yanked around. Like, we've heard stories now of some of these Power 5 coaches, they're talking anonymously kids happy and they come in and say, we think we need $100,000 more dollars, and it's like a shakedown, and it's like, well, what do? You got to go figure out how to get this money now.
Yeah.
And you do it for one, and it keeps on happening.
And I mean that element, especially when it comes to Boo Carter, who you mentioned, that's what that feels like. It feels like Boo Carter is kind of like, hey, I can make my bag a little bigger here by kind of flirting with this whole situation. I'm already boys with Jordan Seaton, and he can kind of be like, I'm not going to Colorado, but I can maybe get a little more NIL out of Tennessee. That's a possibility. Obviously, pure speculation on our part, and he he definitely could be going to Colorado. I don't know. I don't want to make anybody feel warm and cozy about that situation quite yet because we don't know. But I would say this, like moving forward a little bit here, we do have to wrangle with the fact that this recruiting class has swung and missed a ton, and if Boo Carter leaves, ugh, that is not good. And this class, while it would still, even if Boo Carter left the class, this class is still going to be, it was still probably be top 20, I would say. And
That's not
with
good
him in
enough,
it,
though.
yes, exactly. You have to land these elite recruits if you want to be elite. Period. You have to have elite players. You do. That is the bottom line. You look at Georgia winning 2 national championships in a row, and that is how they did it. They stacked elite upon elite upon elite upon elite, and then they won at an elite level. That's how it goes. Now Tennessee, I mean, they only have what 20 recruits in this class so far. It's not enough, but maybe they're just like, we're going to hit the transfer portal super hard now, especially if they don't have to spend millions of bucks on Jordan Seaton now. And so they just go, all right, we're going to go all out in the portal. I want to see the evidence of that, if that is the case. But you got to get these dudes somehow, whether it's out of the portal. I mean, the portal is a complete other dimension now where it does make being elite, it gives you a little more of a fast track to being elite potentially. But I mean, you're not going to have 25 transfers every year like an entire recruiting class. And so you got to develop from the ground up too. And they got to grapple with that. This class so far, unless they pull some stuff out of their hat here at the last minute, it's going to be a little disappointing. And that's unfortunate because you really had opportunities and swung and missed on almost all of them. And that's not good. That's not ideal, and it can't continue going forward unless you really do well in the transfer portal, which is still, we'll see how they do in the transfer portal, or you got to start getting these guys. Those are your two options. That period. You can't continue to miss on these elite guys and think that you're going to just keep ascending up the totem pole.
Yeah, I think you're right. Right now with Jordan Seaton, off the board, looking like he's not going to be at Tennessee, you got to redistribute that NIL money that you had earmarked for Jordan Seaton, however much that was, and you have to use it in the portal. You have to go land. I mean, it doesn't have to be an offensive tackle because you're lucky you got John Campbell coming back that we learned earlier this week, but you've got to go get, Juice Wells from South Carolina, who
Yes.
Lane Kiffin seems to be recruiting pretty hard on social media right now, or you've got to go get the tight end from Notre Dame. You've got to go get a top level player. I mean, you just saw the top transfer cornerback in the portal from Clemson went to Missouri. Like, you cannot let Missouri and other SEC teams out portal you at this point. So you've got to find a way to kind of salvage this and still make a splash. The class is good even without Seaton. It's decent even without Carter, but like we said, it's not good enough. So they've got some work to do here in the next several days, week. I mean, you're talking about these guys are going to be making decisions. This window closes, I think, the end of December, early January. A lot of these decisions will be made before then. You gotta figure it out.
You definitely do. I mean, to wrap this up, don't want to go too long here, but with the transfer portal, this weekend is going to be big. Justin Jolly, whatever it is, from UConn, he dropped out. A lot of people are saying that was actually Tennessee's doing. That they just kind of said, we're glad that you're so enthusiastic about Tennessee, because I think it was kind of obvious that he was pretty in on Tennessee. I don't know if he would have turned out to commit, but he was like excited to come and visit. And then I think they just looked and said we maybe need a guy that's more of a blocker, because you look at now, it's this kid from Notre Dame who they're bringing in is a little more of a that type of tight end.
And you gotta keep Ethan Davis happy
oh
there too.
oh
I
yes,
mean, just because he's
yeah.
a true freshman, I mean, we're seeing guys of all classes jump in the portal. Ethan Davis has, kind of star potential, star SEC potential. You don't want him going anywhere. So that's something to consider as well. You can't just go grab every tight end in the portal. You gotta make sure you keep the guys on the roster that you want to keep around happy, and that goes for several guys, and Arian Carter, T-Lander. I mean, all these guys that you're kind of counting on to take another step this year. You go recruit over them out of the portal, and yeah, they should just wait and they'll get a chance and all that will happen. They'll develop more, but this is not the way of college football anymore. So you got to have that in the back of your mind too.
Definitely. Yeah, like Juice Wells, going back to him, he's a big one. I think you at least got to be in play. And I think, did I see a report where it is kind of Tennessee and Texas for Juice Wells, at least presumed to this point.
I think Ole Miss is trying to jump in there.
Okay.
Lane's there's some weird cryptic stuff. He's been tweeting out Juice hoodies and trying to get people to buy them. And
oh boy,
Juice Wells, there was something about somebody stealing his golf cart on an Instagram story, and Lane Kiffin's flashing up pictures of a South Carolina golf cart on his Twitter account. So I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it does seem like Lane's been pretty active on Twitter this week. Very, very, very active with tweeting at players in the portal or players that have transferred. Typical Lane stuff, but he's really taken his social media activity up a notch.
Yeah, I guess that really is sort of his deal. But obviously it's going to be steep competition for Juice Wells.
Yeah.
Just go back 2 years to the Tennessee South Carolina game, or whatever it was, 18 months ago. And he absolutely torched Tennessee. So how about he comes and torches other SEC teams for us? That would be nice. Obviously, there's a ton of other dudes out there. You got plenty of openings here, plenty of sort of question marks. I mean, don't even get us started on like the defensive backfield. There's plenty there that you could do if you could pick up somebody elite out of the portal there. But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to this: elite in the portal or elite through traditional recruiting. You got to be elite somewhere, or else you're not going to win at that level. That's kind of the bottom line at this point. And if you keep missing on your Jordan Seatons, that is not going to happen. So there it is. I mean, that's really the bottom line. It's really the only take that I can have. I wish I could be a little more rosy about it. I guess I would say, hopefully I am right about Boo Carter, and it is just a little bit of, him having fun, him maybe looking for a little bit more NIL money. I don't know. But we'll be back on Monday to talk about it. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Myself, Zach Reagan, just like this, but we go a good bit longer. And you can watch our show from this week. Some of that is still relevant. A lot of it has been timed out at this point. But yes, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays, we go live here on the A to Z Sports National YouTube channel. And you can watch the Big Orange podcast there in its entirety and come hang out with us. But Zach, anything else for the folks at home before we bounce?
Yeah, there's just no telling what might come up between now and Monday. It's not going to be a totally quiet weekend. So
Lord knows.
Nervous and excited to see how this goes.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Maybe they get this. Maybe they get your Juice Wells. Maybe they get the kid out of Notre Dame, and we're having a good time on Monday. We will see. Maybe, and Tennessee basketball needs to be Illinois too, which is not going to be easy. That's a big one that we'll probably talk about on Monday also. But all right, that's it. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. Thanks for tuning into the midweek show. We will talk to y'all on Monday.
See you guys Monday.